Hi everybody, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. So I just finished, those of you that follow me know that I do a try it class, which is kind of a huge class. It's 10 projects, which means 10 tutorials. So I just finished filming the last one. And I have been editing as they're uploading and stuff, but I thought I need to just do something else. So I'm going to use this paper here, which is one of the free celebration papers that you can get. This is free with a $60 purchase. So I don't know if all of the sheets are in here. You can tell I've been using this packet. Those of you that are in Card Club, we've already cut it, but the in what month is this? In January, you're going to get a 3x3 of all of these, so you can see them up close and personal. So I wanted to use this, and then also for Card Club next week. It's not so much that I was focusing on Card Club, but I'm using this stamp set right now, the mixed florals, for a personal gift that I'm doing for somebody. So I'm making something special for someone at her request. So I don't want to say more than that, but because it was out, and once she has hers and they've been, and like it's known about, then I will show you the project I did for her. But it's the mixed florals. This will be our Card Club in February. It's part of the mixed media floral suite. So if you're in Card Club, you'll be able to add either both or one set of the bundle or both bundles. You'll be able to add the folder, and then we'll have the paper and the dots. I remember I picked a ribbon. It may be the petal pink ribbon, and then I'll show you where the paper is so you can see it. It's beautiful, and it will go with so many different things. It's the Bloom Impressions. These are all the notes from my try it class. Measurements, notes, scoring marks, all of it's is still in there. So I'm going to use this. Now, I already did the card. I did it several days ago, and it was in my line of things to do. So I went over to pull it out, and I thought, my daughter's on her way over here. She's finishing up at the hairdresser, so I texted her, and I'm like, how much time do I have? And I have time, but not a lot of time. So the original card that I did, I don't have all my stuff here, I used watercolor paper, and I watercolored the flowers, and they turned out beautiful. And so as I was getting all this stuff over here, watercolor takes a little bit more time. So I thought I'm just going to switch it up. And so I am going to use blends instead. And then I decided, well, why not try one of the other colors of paper? So I'm going to switch up a little bit of the marker color, and then I'm going to use this ribbon. Was supposed to be in Club this month, but they were out of it before the catalog even started. So it's due in the end of January. So I wanted to remind you that it's there. Those of you that are in Card Club might want to get a spool of it because it will go with your Delightful Wishes paper. So I'm going to switch that up. So let's go ahead and start stamping. I'm going to stay with a Mambo base because I don't use Melon Mambo very often. So any opportunity I have to use it, might as well make the most of it, right? So if you get this set, you do need one of the giant blocks because the stamp doesn't fit on any smaller block than the giant. Or if you have a Stamparatus, you could put it on there. So most of you know that I use Shimmer Solution, a little concoction I came up with, and I had kept it on this block for getting close to a year, and I had to wash it off so I could stamp with this. So I'm going to stamp with Memento. I have my space heater on because, you know, it's 1 degree outside. And it's already really dry winter air in the house, but you put that space heater on and it dries up even quicker. So I'm going to make sure I had lots of ink on that. And then it's a large stamp. It's not going to rock, but you do want to make sure that you get everywhere. So just, you don't want it to lift up. And it's not likely to lift up because it's so big. But just hold on one side and then push on the other. Okay. And then pull up these slowly. If you pull up too fast, some of you may have noticed that you can get some ink splatter, and it's because it pulls off of that and just splatters everywhere. So let's get a scrap piece of paper, which you don't need as much scrap paper when you're using watercolor. So the other one's on watercolor cardstock, and I'll show you a comparison at the end because it's kind of fun sometimes to see the different looks. The other reason that I thought it would be pretty on this and not the watercolor, our fluid 100 watercolor paper is in between a white and a vanilla. So it's middle-ish. I would call it more beige maybe than our beige ink or our beige paper. But when I added it with the vellum that I'm going to use, it looked even more vanilla. So this way, this will keep it white. So let's start. So when I watercolored them, these are the same two colors I used for the leaves and the flowers. I used spruce and mambo. And you can see how these leaves kind of have the line. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of blending because I'm just going to let that line kind of be my guide. So this is the light spruce. Had to double check, that looked kind of dark. I'll do 1 or 2 leaves. Go up here and get that. And I'm using the brush tip, which I don't often use the brush tip, but it's a nice large area, and I'm just kind of swashing in some color. And let's get this one here. So there's half. And I'm going to grab, this time I'm going to use my bullet tip just so I have a little bit more control. And I'm going to do this side on the other side of that line, because that's kind of how I shaded when I was coloring. I let that line be my guide. So let me finish doing these. Okay, so there's all of my leaves. So now I'm going to grab my color lifter, and I'm going to do this to get a little bit of that watercolor feel. You can see that I didn't go right up to the edges. I kind of left some white in here. And this is going to lift out some of those colors because it's a pretty stark green. This will kind of play with it a little bit, move it around. There we go. So kind of lighten that up. It doesn't transfer ink over onto your thing. It's kind of like magic. I'm not quite sure how it works. Now I'm going to use, this is a switch. On the other one, I used petal pink for these, but because I want to use the daffodil ribbon, and there's daffodil in this paper. There wasn't in the paper I used before. I'm going to do a mix of the dark and the light, but just on individual flowers. So this is going to be a much more stark overall one color look than my watercolored card is, obviously. But that's a really quick way to add some color to those. And then same as my other one, now I'm up on the watercolor. I used Mambo, and then I went back in and added some petal pink. This time I'm just going to do the Mambo. Start with my dark and use the brush tip. And I'll probably go back in with the color lifter on this too, so it kind of matches the leaves. Those little flowers you don't need to because they're small and they're daffodil, so they have less need for it to be lifted out, the color. I'm going to take my dark and my bullet tip. Go back and want just a little bit of accents. And I have a helper. She doesn't often jump up on the, she jumps up here all the time because she is very, very needy, but she doesn't usually do it while I'm filming. Now let's get our color lifter again, and this time I'm going to keep it in a petal. You saw when I was doing the leaves, she's already knocking stuff off. I'm not going to pay attention to her. She'll get my attention somehow. So you can see with the color lifter, it takes a second for it to react. So if you keep going, you can take almost all of the color. It won't erase it all the way, but it goes from being pretty bright to not. So what I was going for really with this is the mottled look. So it has some texture kind of to it, because the blends, when you do them the way I just did it, and just did straight color without blending them, they're pretty dark ink. There we go. So I think that looks pretty good. Now there are two dies I'm going to use. I'm going to use the die to cut these out, which is part of the suite. And then I have pulled out, this is from the Golden Greenery, which was a Christmas set of vellums. But this, it may be snow. Well, it's snowing everywhere today, right? No matter where you are, you're kind of getting some snow. But I'm going to put it over the top of this, and you can see it kind of mutes it, because this with that's like way too much. So if I put this here, then that will mute it. But I wanted a little bit more of it to show through, so I'm just going to cut this out and make a little bit of a window. So let me put these through my machine. Okay, so I've cut the Everyday Arch out. I love, love, love these. And then we have our flowers. And it's interesting to me, like Stampin' Up's colors coordinate. So a Melon Mambo in ink is not the Melon Mambo in ribbon, is not the Melon Mambo in a refill, is not the Melon Mambo in a marker. Because as you work with, if you know anything about working with dyes, the things that you need to make dyes from, like an alcohol ink, is different than an ink pad ink, which is different than adding it to fiber when you create paper. So they're all color coordinated. So the blends make a much brighter, plus I added the petal pink to the other one, but it's a much brighter. The Shaded Spruce is way brighter than the Shaded Spruce on the other one. Actually, I may have used Coastal Cabana now looking at it. I think that I did. I don't think it was Shaded Spruce, but so this is a darker one, but this, I used a different piece of paper. This is Shaded Spruce. On the other one, it is Coastal Cabana, so that's why it's a little bit darker. So now we have this on here, and it just is going to highlight some of the paper, and it will show through without it being overtly like, oh my gosh, there is some bright flowers behind here. It's going to kind of hide them. Just add a little bit of vellum, of adhesive to your vellum. Put this on here. And now when this goes on, I'm going to use some dimensionals. See, it's just a little bit of it peeks through. And this muted, if you have regular vellum, you could use it. Stampin' Up! Doesn't have any regular vellum, just clear. That's just, but that's always been a big trick of mine, is to kind of mute some of the papers, because they can be busy, which is great if that's what you're using. But when you're trying to put a stamped image over the top, sometimes you don't want the paper to detract from whatever you just stamped and made. Add this here. And then on the other one, I have the petal pink ribbon. I'm going to use this. So this is going to be a much brighter card. Those of you that are in Try It, I told you how I originally had your thing until I couldn't get the ribbon, so we had to cut it down. But if you're watching this, this is how I had it the first time, because I wanted, this is thin ribbon, and I wanted it to, you have to start on top. I wanted to kind of give it some body, so I added it there. And then wrap this around. It would have taken a ton of ribbon, and all I had, because they sold out, was what I pre-ordered. And we can only get 2 spools, so that was not going to be enough for everybody to do it. So now you kind of have this extra little bit of ribbon. And you want to make sure it's all going the same way. So I'm going to put it on here, pull that, grab this one. Make sure that as you twist it, the ribbons don't twist, because you want them to be nice and flat. And then to hold this in place, I'm going to go ahead and tie the start of a knot. I'm going to tie a bow, but it'll be easier to work with if I don't have to worry about that ribbon moving. There we go. And now I'm going to tie a bow. And again, you want to make sure you can see my ribbons going a different way than what I was trying to force it. And if you force it a different way, then that's when your ribbons and your bows can kind of go cattywampus. And you want them to be straight and beautiful. So work with the way the ribbon's going, and especially because this was the end of a spool, it has a definite direction that it was going. So those of you can try it. This was going to be the bow on that card. I'm going to trim these ends off just a little bit, but that was almost the right exact amount to do this with. Instead, they got a knot. A wrap, oh no, well, they did get a wrap around in a knot, except I ended up doing a vintage 90s bow, 80s bow, just a little satin bow that looks like it came on your pajamas back in the day. Add this. Now I used these before. I could still use just the pink, because this color no longer matches as well as it did before. So let me see what else we have. Okay, I'm going to go with some more celebration items. And obviously this has a lot of pink that's not on this, but these white ones will look really pretty. So let's just add some white sequins. And one more. Let me grab a little one. They have a little bit of pink in them for the iridescence, but mostly they're white. So these are another free with 60. And then one last little touch. I'll put those away in a second. I'm going to take my Wink of Stella. I'm just going to add it to parts. And this will also kind of brighten it up. But I'm not going to do it to the whole thing. Also kind of brighten it up. But I'm not going to do it to the whole thing. Just kind of brush it down the dark side of my leaves. This kind of needs to be squeezed, but you know it's kind of dangerous with a Wink of Stella. Oh, look, there's I'm painting the little scrap from my sequins. It's dangerous, a little squeeze, because you might get a whole bunch. So enough's coming out that I'm going to work with that and then squeeze it when I'm not right in the middle of filming a project. On those dark ones. Okay. Pretty. That is bright and cheery. People, if your friends or family who you send cards to who like bright colors are going to love that one. And then this one is much more subdued. So I wish that I had realized that I used not shaded spruce. This is, well, it's Coastal Cabana. Here are the inks that I used when I painted that. So I pulled these over. It was Shy Shamrock and Coastal Cabana were the two colors I used. And then I added, I guess, a little bit of Bubble Bath to those. I thought it was, but here's what they were. So same exact card. You can use what you have as far as ribbon, because in this paper especially, you're going to hit almost all the colors of ribbon that you ever had. This is the one that kind of matches this back in here, and that's where I added that. And then here are, these are part of the Friends of the Ocean suite. Since I just filmed Try It, I know what everything goes into right now. I'll sleep on it tomorrow and then I won't remember, but right now I remember what all the pieces are. So if you're interested in joining my online card club, you can always subscribe. You have to subscribe by the 10th of the month. And sometime next week, I will send out the information for February's. So we have a grandson coming soon. as in being born. So I'm trying to get ahead of the game. So when he comes, I'll have some free time so I can go enjoy the best part of being a baby. Have a great one. Bye.